In this video, I'm going to talk about conditionals. Conditional statements are the if statement, the elif statement, and the else statement. The way these work is the if statement is the only one that's required. And if the condition that the if statement is checking evaluates to true, then the code that is indented under that statement will execute. If you want to have additional options, if the if statement evaluates to false, you can use the elif statement. And if the elif statement evaluates to true, then the code that is indented under it will execute, and you can have any number of elif statements. And then finally, if your if and any elif statements all evaluate to false, you can use the else statement to have kind of a catch-all that will execute if that ends up being the case. Then there's a thing called a ternary operator, which is a concise way to assign a value based on an if-else statement in a single line of code. So if you have a variable that you want to assign a value, one of two values to based on whether or not a condition is true, one for if the condition is true, one for if the condition is false, a ternary operator is a very concise way to go about doing that. And over here on the right, we have some syntax for it. You'll see it says if condition, and the condition is a Boolean operation or a function, anything that returns a Boolean that could evaluate to true or false. And if this evaluates to true, then the code under it executes. Then the elif condition, which you can have any number of elif conditions. If the if condition is false, then the elif condition will be evaluated. And if the condition is true, the code under it will execute. And then finally, if the if and elif conditions are all false, the else statement will run. Then for the ternary operator, the syntax is value if true, if condition, else value if false. And when I jump into my development environment, you'll see that I got a couple of variables here ready to go to perform some conditional statements on. And I am going to output results into the variable result and print that out to the terminal. So the first thing I'm going to do here is put in an if statement, and I'm going to have it check to see if x is less than 3. And then I'm going to end this line with a colon. And when I hit enter, you'll notice that Visual Studio Code has automatically indented this and given me 4 blank spaces here. And the code underneath that is not indented has this little red squiggly line. And if I mouse over it, it says expected indented block. This is because whenever you use a colon, it expects the next line of code to be indented. What I'm going to do if x is less than 3 is set the value of result to equal x is less than 3. And when I run this, we'll get the output no true statements, which is what result is initialized to, because this evaluates to false since x is 5. So I could be like, okay, well, let me double check to see if maybe x is equal to 4. And then under here, I can put result is equal to x is 4. And if I run this, again, we'll get no true statements because neither this evaluation or this evaluation has returned true. So then I could drop in an else statement with just a colon after it. It doesn't need a condition. It doesn't take a condition. It's just the catch-all if all the conditions above it evaluate to false. And I could say result equals x is not less than 3 or equal to 4. And if I run this, we get the output here. X is not less than 3 or equal to 4 because since these evaluated to false, this code right here executed. And you can do as many elif statements as you want. So I could add another here and say elif x is equal to 5. Then under that, put result equals x is 5. And when I run this now, we'll get the output x is 5 because after this returns false, and then this returns false. This condition right here evaluates to true, so that is what gets executed. And then since one of these executed, the else statement does not execute. And the condition that's being checked can be anything as long as it returns or evaluates to a Boolean value of true or false. So if I wanted to have something like x is less than 10 or x is greater than 3 and y is equal to 10, result equals, that's correct because I'm not going to type all that out. When I run this, we'll get the output that's correct because this here evaluates to true. The x is greater than 3 and y is equal to 10 gets evaluated first because and comes before or in the precedence. which evaluates to true because x is greater than 3 and y is equal to 10. And then it checks x is less than 10, or this value that gets evaluated over here, which becomes true or true, and the whole thing evaluates to true. So this code right here gets executed. That is it for this video. In the next video, we will cover nested if statements and the ternary operator.